Dewan Rakyat votes to ex mandatory death penalty. EPF finalises account to support facility. Amendments in relation to the abolition of the mandatory death penalty have been approved by the Dewan Rakyat. The amendments were introduced via the tabling of the Abolition of Mandatory Death Penalty Bill 2023 for the second and third reading by Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department of Law and Institutional Reform, Ram Kapal Singh, in Parliament today. The bill was passed by a voice vote after 10 MPs debated on it, followed by a winding-up speech by Ram Kapal. Ram Kapal said it was crucial to abolish the mandatory death penalty in favour of alternative sentences as the death penalty was irreversible.
Dengan pindaan ini, Mahkamah mempunyai budi bicara sama ada untuk menjatuhkan hukuman mati atau hukuman pemenjaraan bagi suatu tempoh yang tidak kurang daripada 30 tahun tetapi tidak melebihi 40 tahun. Dan sekiranya tidak dijatuhkan hukuman mati, hendaklah juga dihukum dengan sebatan tidak kurang daripada 12 kali sebatan.
Ram Kapal reiterated that the abolishment of the mandatory death penalty does not mean the total abolishment of the death penalty, as the punishment remains for 11 offences. The Education Ministry, MOE, constantly monitors schools to ensure that they comply with the stipulated procedures so that the Parent Teacher Association PIBG fees do not burden the parents. Minister Fadila Sidit said the ministry, through a notification letter dated 15 September 2021, has reminded schools not to charge additional fees in PIBG contributions and to comply with the set guidelines.
KPM yakin dengan peranan yang dimainkan oleh PIBG dalam memastikan kemajuan serta pembangunan murid dan sekolah serta guru, ibu bapa atau penjaga murid adalah digalakkan untuk memberi sokongan kepada PIBG dalam apa jua aktiviti yang dirancang, termasuk dalam usaha mendapatkan dana untuk membantu sekolah dalam aspek pengurusan program sekolah.
The Education Minister also urged parents to attend PIBG meetings organised by the school to obtain information and justifications regarding the fees charged. She further noted that if there is a complaint, it must be submitted as per the stipulated rules and process, where the Education Ministry, together with the State Registrar, will ensure that the correction is made either through a meeting or by any regulation under the Registrar's authority. The Ministry of Higher Education, MOHE, will not practice educational policing on universities for the purpose of prohibiting politicians from entering campuses. Its Minister, Datuk Seri Muhammad Khalid Nordin, said that politicians are allowed to attend or organise programs on campus with permission from the respective universities, but not to set up new party branches. Commenting further on the matter, the Minister said the Ministry wants to produce knowledgeable graduates and develop their thinking power. Therefore, the Ministry does not want them to be obsessed with a certain way of thinking from the start. Datuk Seri Muhammad Khalid said it was up to the universities to decide on the permission guidelines. He said he does not control the universities and the Ministry is not interested in carrying out educational policing, as he is not the police to be taking care of them. When asked about the possibility of allowing political parties to set up branches in universities, the Minister said lawmakers debated the matter in the Parliament recently and they agreed that it was not fair to do so. The Employees Provident Fund EPF has finalised the mechanism as well as the terms and conditions for the Account to Support Facility FSA2, which will be implemented in two phases, with Phase 1 beginning on 7th April. In a statement today, EPF said members who meet eligibility criteria may apply through participating banks, including MBSB Bank and Bank Simpanan Nasional BSN. The statement said EPF may also consider adding more participating banks in the future. It also said that during Phase 1, which will remain open for 1 year, eligible members who are 40 years of age or older may apply. subject to the readiness of participating banks. The start date for Phase 2 for members under 40 years of age will be announced in due course. Under the facility, all Malaysian EPF members under the age of 55 can submit an advance notice of age 50 or age 55 withdrawal, provided they have a minimum amount of 3,000 ringgit in their EPF account too. The maximum financing amount has been fixed at 50,000 ringgit, subject to EPF account 2 balance with a repayment tenure of up to 10 years. The conventional interest rate or Islamic profit rate to be charged by the participating banks will range from 4 to 5%. EPF also said that the amount paid will first be used to settle the remaining personal financing balance, if any, before returning any excess to the member. Beginning 5th April, members can visit its website to check their eligibility and the amount of personal financing that can be applied for under the facility. The payment of Phase 2 of Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah STR to 8.7 million people in the B40 group, worth 1.26 billion ringgit, will be credited into the accounts of the registered recipients in stages from Wednesday. Previously, under the first phase of the STR initiative, the Finance Ministry said a total of 1.67 billion ringgit has been rolled out in stages since 17th January. The Finance Ministry said STR recipients in rural areas, including Sabah and Sarawak, with or without bank accounts, will also receive this payment on the same date. The Ministry added that the recipients who do not have a bank account can cash the payment out at a bank Simpanan Nasional BSN branches beginning Wednesday. According to the Ministry, the third phase of Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah is tentatively expected to be disbursed in July and the fourth phase sometime in November. The Land Public Transport Agency APAD announced that the age limit for the use of taxi and e-hailing vehicles in Peninsular Malaysia, Sabah, Sarawak and the Federal Territory of Labuan has been increased to 15 years. In a statement released today, the agency said the extension is in line with the Transport Ministry's intention to sustain the taxi and e-hailing industry towards improving the country's transport system. Elaborating further, the statement said the extension applies to both taxi and e-hailing vehicles in the Peninsula and e-hailing vehicles in Sabah, Sarawak and the Federal Territory of Labuan, with the conditions, among others, that the vehicles reach the maximum age limit starting 1 January 2023. The vehicles are also in compliance and pass all mandatory periodical inspections by Puspacom and other stipulated operating conditions. APAD hope that with the announcement, taxi and e-hailing industry players can improve the quality of their service towards making it a trusted and quality mode of choice for the people. Further information on this matter can be found on APAD's official website or at the nearest APAD office. Still ahead, ceiling price of bottled cooking oil fixed until 7th May. Malaysia's headline inflation will fall in the upper end of Bank Negara's Malaysia forecast range of 2.8% to 3.8% this year if the government proceeds with fuel subsidies rationalisation. Citing RON 95, the central bank's assistant governor Frazali Ismail said it is a huge bill to the government and it is not sustainable, adding that the money can be used for other things for the economy.
Many times I've sat in the audience.
He said a big subsidies adjustment is not likely as seen in year 2007 or 2008.
That depends. You know, for example, if you want to do subsidy reform, you want to do it, you know, when the economy is strong, when prices are coming down, when the timing is good, you know, so that there can be compensating adjustments. So of course, timing matters, but importantly is implementation, right?
He was met by reporters after participating in a panel discussion organised by the Malaysian Economic Association at the Asia School of Business in the nation's capital. Frazali said while inflation is showing signs of easing recently, it is likely to stay elevated for a longer period. However, he assured that the Malaysia's inflationary pressure is not as bad as certain advanced economies experienced last year.
Such overseas requirements, although
the maximum retail price of bottled cooking oil will be unchanged from 8 April until 7th May, according to Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub. The Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister said the government is committed to easing the people's burden and ensuring that their preparations during Ramadan and the upcoming Hari Raya Aidilfitri will not be disrupted by price increases. He said the ceiling retail price for bottled cooking oil is RM6.90 for 1 kilogram, RM13.30 for 2 kilograms, RM19.60 for 3 kilograms, and RM30.90 for 5 kilograms. This is despite the average price of crude oil palm oil CPO in the world market increasing last month.
Kenaikan harga ini sekaligus akan menyebabkan berlakunya kenaikan harga runcit. Minyak masak tulen kemasan botol berdasarkan kepada konsep harga siling bergerak.
Briefing reporters at the parliamentary lobby today, Datuk Sri Salahuddin said the move is to protect the people and help those in need, especially during the fasting month and Hari Raya Aidilfitri. He said the relevant stakeholders had already been consulted with to ensure there are no price hikes for now. The government will improve the levy collection mechanism and is prepared to review the windfall profit threshold by taking into consideration palm oil production costs. Deputy Finance Minister Datuk Sri Ahmad Maslan in the Dewan Rakyat today said the windfall profit levy had been collected by the government on crude palm oil, crude palm kernel, oil palm fruit and electricity since 1st January 1999.
Akta Levy Keuntungan Luar Biasa 1998 sememangnya digubal untuk mengenakan apa-apa levy ke atas apa-apa barangan yang boleh ditetapkan oleh Menteri Kewangan. Sungguh pun tidak dikenakan levy syarikat yang menjana pendapatan tinggi khususnya dalam tempoh pandemik seperti syarikat sarung tangan telah dikenakan cukai makmur secara one-off sebagai menyokong inisiatif kerajaan dalam membantu golongan terjejas.
Datuk Sri Ahmad said the government used the revenue from the levy to subsidise cooking oil to stabilise prices as well as for reducing the cost of living and other development programs. The Congress of Unions of Employees in the Public and Civil Services QPAC stands in solidarity with the group protesting over the contract doctors issue but disagrees with any move to go on strike. QPAC President Datuk Adnan Mat said going on strike would only affect the government's healthcare delivery system to the people. He said the members of the group themselves do not have locus standi to pursue any form of industrial action such as strike as they were not ununionized. At the same time, face action for violating public service regulations.
Mereka ini boleh diambil tindakan, tidak dilindungi di bawah akta kesihatan sekerja. Mereka boleh diambil tindakan. Bila diambil tindakan, mereka ini boleh dibuang daripada bertaraf kontrak langsung bertaraf tidak ada kerja.
Yesterday, Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi, who is also the high-level committee chairman to resolve the contract doctors issue, said the government will ensure the implementation of a win-win solution so that no party will be at a loss. Pahang Police received 1,710 reports regarding commercial fraud with 564 investigation papers open involving losses of RM9.7 million for the first 3 months of this year. Pahang Police Chief Datuk Sri Ramli Muhammad Yusof said the cases increased from the same period last year, which were 495 investigation papers, but the total loss recorded was higher at RM10.2 million. At a press conference at the Pahang Police Contingent Headquarters today, he said most of the victims are men between 17 and 40 years old, with the majority of 229 cases involving private sector workers, followed by public servants with 69 cases. According to Datuk Sri Ramli, so far this year, Pahang Police have arrested 319 suspects with 303 involved in fraud cases, including owners of accounts used in the crime. He also advised the public not to lend or rent out bank accounts to third parties because the consequences of being held suspect of mule account fraud can affect their own fate when charged in court or face civil lawsuits. The prosecution in the criminal breach of trust CBT case facing Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak and former Treasury Secretary General Tan Sri Muhammad Irwan Sarigat Abdullah involving the International Petroleum Investment Company IPIC requested that the hearing of the case today be postponed due to new developments. Deputy Public Prosecutor Muhammad Saifuddin Hashim Musaimi told High Court Judge Datuk Muhammad Jamil Hussein that this followed a letter representation sent by Datuk K. Kumarendran representing Tan Sri Muhammad Irwan to the Attorney General's chambers. Muhammad Saifuddin said the prosecution also received a copy of a letter from lawyer Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah representing Datuk Sri Najib, also requesting a postponement of the case today. Meanwhile, Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi told the court that he had sent a letter to the court to request for the trial of the case this month and in May to be postponed in view of discussions involving a settlement between the Malaysian government and IPC. However, he said he could not reveal the details because the matter is sensitive. Judge Dato' Muhammad Jamil allowed the trial to be postponed and fixed 29th May for mention for the prosecution to inform the court of the status of the representation of the two accused. On 24th October 2018, Datuk Sri Najib and Tan Sri Muhammad Irwan pleaded not guilty to 6 charges of CBT amounting to 6.6 billion ringgit in government funds involving payments to IPIC. Coming up in our foreign segment, oil prices soar as producers unveil sharp output cut. Firefighters were scrambling to contain wildfires across South Korea as a dry spell led to blazes in multiple regions, including on a mountain popular with hikers in central Seoul. The city government said a fire broke out Sunday morning on Mount Inwang, a popular outdoor destination in Seoul's Jongho district, and spread rapidly due to strong winds. It added about 120 households were forced to evacuate, but no deaths or injuries were reported. Firefighters using helicopters were still struggling to extinguish smoldering fires early today, although the main blaze was put out Sunday evening. Firefighting authorities today were also battling strong winds and smoke in an effort to contain wildfires across Chungcheong province south of Seoul. According to the Korea Forest Service, more than 60 homes and buildings were damaged by fire and at least 236 people were evacuated in Hongseong County in the south of Chungcheong. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol on Sunday ordered fire and forest authorities to use all possible resources to put out the fires. Authorities plan to investigate the cause of the blaze once it was completely extinguished. Oil prices soared today after top producers unveiled a shock output cut of more than 1 million barrels per day. The decision by the OPEC Plus cartel fanned concerns about a fresh spike in prices that could put pressure on central banks to push interest rates higher. Both main crude contracts jumped around 8% at one point following the cut by Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Algeria and Oman, which was the biggest since the group slashed 2 million barrels per day in October. A Saudi Energy Ministry official emphasized that this is a precautionary measure aimed at supporting the stability of the oil market. Crude prices have come down over the past years as concerns about a possible recession caused by higher borrowing costs have offset supply worries sparked by sanctions on Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. National Australia Bank's Tapas Strickland said the production cut, coming at a time of uncertain global demand environment, clearly shows OPEC was not happy with the movement in the oil price, which had fallen over recent months. Analysts said the decision could deal a blow to the markets, which had rallied in recent weeks on optimism that the recent banking sector turmoil could force the US Federal Reserve to end its rate hike drive sooner than expected. More than 200,000 plane passengers in Italy were left grounded for several hours as air traffic crews and at more than 40 airports across the country went on strike demanding higher wages in line with rising inflation. The 4-hour-long strike, which lasted from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. local time, involved air traffic controllers, aviation meteorologists and general airport staff and resulted in massive flight delays and cancellations. Airlines are being required to rebook affected passengers and provide alternative accommodation and meals in cases of extended delay following the disruption brought by the strike action. The Italian aviation industry has been struggling to cope with staff shortages, while many airline workers are facing long, stressful hours and poor working conditions. Many have been protesting against the excessive workload placed on them, while staff have also demanded their salaries be increased in accordance with rising prices brought by soaring inflation. Data released by Italian National Institute of Statistics in March showed that the core inflation rate, which excludes energy and fresh food with volatile prices, increased to 6.4%, up to 0.1 percentage points from the previous month. Next up in sports, BAM focusing on development of quality women's single shuttlers.
kecemasan boleh saya bantu?
Hello, there's been a motorcycle accident here. Maybe an elephant ran it over.
Sir, there is fire accident at the address number 5 Jalan Timbikan, Shah Alam.
PGO from FRT Shah Alam, there was no fire accident here. Over.
MERS 999. Use it wisely.
The Badminton Association of Malaysia BM is focusing on the development phase of producing quality women's single shuttlers in the country. Malaysian Badminton Academy Chief Executive Officer Michelle Chai informed that a total of 5 players aged between 16 and 20 are currently involved in the program.
Jadi kita tahun ni kita memang hala tuju kita memang kita nak start dari mula lah. So saya rasa dari kalau kita tengok the women singles kita memang tumpukan perhatian lebih kepada pembangunan pemain-pemain rather than result lah at the moment.
The players involved include K. Shana, who rejoined BM last month, apart from several others that are under the supervision of Director of Youth Singles Coaching Datuk Misbun Siddiq. The 58th Malaysian Invitational Age Group MIAG Diving Championship is a suitable platform for the junior divers in making the necessary preparation ahead of the 2023 SEA Games in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. The country's diving queen, Datuk Panela Renung, said the competition would provide an important exposure to the younger athletes, including Alicia Rania Abriel Rajagopal, who is competing at the international level for the first time this year.
Saya rasa pertandingan ni memang bagus untuk dia lah supaya dia boleh tahu masa latihan dengan pertandingan punya badan macam mana, feeling macam mana sebab latihan dengan pertandingan tak sama.
She said she is confident that the junior divers are capable of shining, thus maintaining Malaysia's dominance in the SEA Games in Cambodia. Earlier, Datuk Pandalela, who represented the national team, lived up to expectation when she won the women's 10 meters platform event by collecting 326.05 points, followed by Sarawak diver Alicia Rania with 235 points. Ong Ray Earn from Singapore won the bronze medal after collecting 208.25 points. Starting the race in 20th position on the grid, national Moto3 rider Sharifuddin Azman displayed a stunning ride to finish the Argentina Grand Prix yesterday in the points group. Sharifuddin, nicknamed Damo, finished the race in 11th place with a time of 35 minutes and 32.132 seconds despite having to face wet and slippery conditions at the Terma's Rio Hondo circuit. The empty helmets MSI rider secured his first 5 points after 2 races, having struggling to find his form in the first race at the Portuguese Grand Prix the previous weekend. The race was won by Japanese rider Tatsuki Suzuki with 35 minutes, 18.099 seconds, while second place went to Diogo Moreira from Brazil with 35 minutes, 22.670 seconds. Andrea Migno from Italy came in third with a time of 35 minutes, 22.798 seconds. Sharifuddin, who's making his debut in the World Motorcycle Championship, will continue the competition at the United States Grand Prix on 16 April. Second half goals from Joe Willock and Callum Wilson helped Newcastle United to a 2-0 home win over Manchester United in the Premier League and leapfrog Erik ten Hag's side in the bid to secure Champions League qualification. United failed to threaten the Newcastle goal and did not manage a shot on target until the 56th minute, which came through an unchallenging effort from winger Anthony. Newcastle created plenty of chances throughout the match but did not convert, thanks in part to another solid performance from United goalkeeper David Gia. Willock arrived unmarked to convert an Alan Saint maximum cutback on 64 minutes. Then Wilson came off the bench on 80th minute and netted header from a well-taken Kieran Trippier free kick to seal a precious victory. The win was some sort of revenge for Newcastle after losing 2-0 to Ten Hag's United in the Carabao Cup final in February. Newcastle move up to third place in the table, ahead of United in fourth on goal difference. The two sides are level on 50 points with a game in hand over 5th place Tottenham.
The number of malicious and false statements spread by SMS or social media platforms have become too widespread. The public is advised to be careful and not fall for such ploys and sharing or forwarding such messages. Remember that spreading fake news is an offence under Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998. This carries a penalty of a fine not exceeding 50,000 ringgit or up to 1 year imprisonment or both upon conviction.
That concludes this evening's Malaysia Tonight. In our top story, Day 1 riot votes the ex-mandatory death penalty. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. Here is a clip of a robotic shark that gobbles up plastic waste to clean up the water in London's docklands. Till then, I'm SAHIH. Good night.